Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of my 6-month review of my 991911. I wanted to take an opportunity to give you an update on some of the issues I was having that I mentioned in the first video. The sunroof whistling issue, the car not starting issue, and also a new issue that's popped up. I then wanted to talk about some of the add-ons I put in the car. You know, I haven't gone crazy. A lot of people change out the exhaust system or fiddle with the chassis or engine or whatever. I'm not doing that at this point. I love the car the way it is. I don't want to put the warranty in any sort of jeopardy. So it's minor changes I've made to the car, and I wanted to share those with you. And then I wanted to talk about some of the standard features in this car. The upside of having a car that's gone back to the dealership to be fixed so many times is that I've got to drive so many of their loaner cars. They've given me Boxsters, Caymans, the Cayenne, the Panamera. I've pretty much driven them all, and those loaner cars are always very basic models. There's hardly any add-ons in them, and what I find is even the most base model car is still a lot of fun to drive, and that's true of the 911 as well, in that you don't have to spend the $20 or $40 or even $60,000 on extras, and while they're nice, the base model is still a great car and still comes with a lot of great equipment. So I was going to cherry pick out a few of those standard items in the car that I like or dislike and talk a little bit about them. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and on with the review. Okay, so let's take a look at the issues. If you remember last time, I still had 2 outstanding issues: the cranking and not starting every time, and what I thought was the whistle from the sunroof. If you remember that irritating little number. They have replaced something called the gap for the crank sensor, installed a spacer for the crank sensor, which they'd done before, but hopefully this time that's fixed. Third time lucky on that one. And the good news is the sunroof noise issue is gone. It was never actually the sunroof in the end, it was the passenger side window. One of the engineers at my dealership did a great job in taking the car out, listening to the noise, and finally figuring out that it was actually coming from the passenger side window. And what was happening was, when the car was stopped, for some reason the window would drop a couple of millimeters and then not go back up again. When you open and close the doors, the windows do drop down to get past the rubber lip, and then they pop back up again when you open them. But for some reason, when the passenger door wasn't being used, that was dropping down a little bit and not going back up again. So that was causing that whistle. And they ended up replacing something called a door control module, which hopefully has fixed that problem. Interestingly enough, a problem which I wasn't too worried about was, if you remember, I had one of the sensors for the backing radar had gone out, and they'd replaced that, and they'd replaced it with, they'd painted it and it didn't look quite right. It was a much darker color. Well, one of the engineers at my dealership must have seen the video, and when it was in getting the other problems fixed, he had that changed out. So now the sensors all match nicely. So that's great. However, I still have one other problem, and this had actually started happening at the time that I took my last video, but now it's gotten a little worse. And that is that when you're driving along, it used to be that the passenger side mirror, the glass would fold all the way down. Now I'm having this problem where when I'm driving along, suddenly both mirrors will fold all the way down. It's only happened to me 3 times since I picked up the car 4 or 5 days ago, but it's happening frequently enough to be a nuisance. And now that both mirrors are dropping down, I've actually had an opportunity to see it happen, because it was out the corner of my eye. I saw it in my peripheral vision. I suddenly saw the horizon disappear off the mirror, and then I looked across at the other mirror, and they were both doing it. They're both folding all the way down to their lowest position, and nothing's touching the buttons or anything like that. So I think it has to go back and have that checked. But other than that, fingers crossed, I think most of the problems are now solved. Okay, next I wanted to talk about some of the add-ons I've done to my car. Nothing major. I know a lot of people put different exhausts on or fiddle with the chassis or make engine modifications. I'm not doing any of that. I don't want to put my, with the amount of problems I have with this car, I don't want to put my warranty at jeopardy for anything. And, as far as I'm concerned, the car handles and performs just fine as it is. So I'm just putting minor electrical add-ons, the radar detector, 2 dash cams, and I've changed the side lights for the indicators. So I'll run you quickly through those modifications I've made. The first being the radar detector. The radar detector I've put in this car is the Escort 9500 CI. It's an installed radar detector. I had the same radar detector in my last car and I had it for 5 years. My last car was the previous generation M3, the E91 M3, and I only got one ticket in the whole time I had that radar detector, and that was the only time I got that ticket was because I was ignoring the warning from the radar detector because I thought I was already below the speed limit, but I wasn't. It is a fantastic radar detector. I used to be a big fan of the Valentine 1 radar detectors, but frankly their time has passed. Mine went straight in the bin because it became so annoying. It has 2 major faults, the biggest one being that it's such a sensitive radar, it spends its whole time false alarming, and so you just ignore it. You just end up ignoring it the whole time, so it's a pointless, noisy device. And the second one being that it doesn't have any radar jamming technology in it. Not radar jamming, laser jamming technology, and these days more and more cops are using lasers to get your speed, and once they shoot the laser at you, they've got the speed instantly. There's no chance to slow down like with the radar. And so it's already too late once it warns you. So the Valentine 1 went in the trash, thank goodness. And this Escort unit, well, it being expensive, I think pays for itself pretty quickly. I would like to see a few modifications or updates to it. It's been 5-6 years since they released it and it's still exactly the same model, but it works pretty well. I've put my screen for it up in the top corner here, so it's just in the corner of my eye. I like it there because I can have the volume, the beeping volume set very, very low. I don't have to hear the warning beep. I can just see. If any time it gives me a warning, I can just see it in the corner of my eye. It's very, very effective there, and I can react very quickly to it being there. I put the control buttons down by the wiper stalk here. It means that it's easy enough for me to get to, and it's not in the way anywhere. A lot of people put it in the center console, and they actually put the screen in the center console as well, which is fine, but I think to have to look down to press the buttons or see what's happening, I think defeats the purpose of this radar. You really need to be able to see it instantly so you can react instantly. On the front of the car, you can see I've mounted the detectors and the jammers just underneath the grille here, and no one notices them. It's a great place to have them. And in the back, I've put it just on the number plate, which is where it's designed to be. I'd love to have it a little bit more flush. I've seen some installers cut a hole in the plate arrangement there and sink it in. I'd love to have that done at some stage. It's not obnoxious where it is, but I'd like it to be a little bit more subtle. So yeah, the radar detector I think is great, is well worth it for anyone that's going to spend a little more time than they should above the speed limit. It saved me a countless number of times. Next is the dash cam. I decided about 4 or 5 years ago that I'm never going to go without a dash cam again. I had a lady back into me and claim that I'd hit her when I was just standing still. And so that's when I decided it was time to spend $300 and get a dash cam, so I can never have to have one of these arguments again. I had the dash cam that I've put two dash cams into this car. Put one facing the rear and one facing the front. The one facing the rear is the dash cam that I had in my M3, and it's a lovely unit. It's only standard definition, but it's rock solid. I can always depend on it. It works all the time, and the picture quality is actually fairly good from it. The one on the front is the newer 500 model, Blackview dash cam. Blackview is one of the popular brands of dash cams, and they're pretty good. You know, I am thinking about changing the front view one to another model, trying out something a bit different, because this 500, well, it has all these neat features that supposedly make it better, Wi-Fi compatible and viewing from your smartphone. None of them actually work that well. So, and it's not completely reliable. It doesn't always record. So I'm going to swap it out for a model that is a little bit more trustworthy, and perhaps get a little bit better picture quality out of it as well. Finally, the turn indicator lights. The American models come standard with these amber reflectors on them, which are fine, but they look a little I don't know, a little bright for my liking. So for I think $60 it cost me, maybe less, I can't remember the cost. You can get these, the American standard one. It's still a Porsche item. It comes from the Porsche factory. It's not a third-party item. And you can even get a clear bulb for them as well. And they're easy enough. You just pull them out this way here, change the bulbs over, and snap them back in place, and you've got clear reflectors on the side, which I think it's a much cleaner look to the side of the car. So that's a pretty easy change that anyone can do themselves. Okay, so on to, as I said before, standard equipment. And as I said before, this car is fantastic. These cars are fantastic, just bog standard. And they come with a lot of great standard equipment. And I don't want to bore you with a very long list, but I will pick out a few things that I think are notable. Both things that I like and dislike. And I'll start with the dislike. The standard equipment that I dislike is this stupid e-brake, which I can never figure out how to turn off and on. It's pretty simple. You push or pull, but sometimes it goes on or off. Anyway, I never end up using it because it's down out of the way and I never see it, and I forget about it down there. And not only that, it unlike a normal handbrake, it brakes all four wheels. So there's no handbrake slides with this car. You can't pull on that and do a handbrake slide. It's going to brake all four wheels. So that's kind of dull. The reason it's a nuisance to me is particular to me, because my previous car was a dual clutch transmission M3, and if anyone who's owned a dual clutch transmission M car will know, they've got these stupid gear lever things that don't have a park position. The car puts itself in park when you switch the engine off. So after 5 years of owning that car, I've got into the bad habit of not putting the car into park manually. You expect the car to do it automatically. So in this car, I quite often get to where I'm going, and because I have the comfort entry and exit, on models without the comfort entry, you have to put the car in park before you take the key out. But this car, you can just leave the car and park it. You can leave the car and lock it while it's still in drive or neutral. And so there is nothing more entertaining to the general public, I think, than seeing me pull up in my 911, get out, lock it, and then see the car slowly rolling down the hill and me chasing after it. This has happened more times than I would like to admit. And it's just through bad habit and stupidity of forgetting to put the car into park. So hopefully I'm going to get better at that before something really nasty happens. Okay, so the next standard option that I love about this car is the back seats. And a lot of people would think, oh, they're just useless, they're so small, there's no point to having them there. But this is really what makes this car so much better than a lot of other two-seater sports cars. And that those back seats are so useful. And I'm not saying that they're useful for everybody, because they are way too small. If you're 6 foot like I am, there's just no way you're going to fit in there. However, if you're 5'3", 5'4", or below, you can definitely fit in there. I mean, you wouldn't want to drive 1,000 miles with someone sitting in the back seat, but it's perfectly comfortable for short distances. And so, you know, if you've got a partner that's, 5'3", 5'4", you can stuff them in the back, no problem at all. But really what I use the back seat for is carrying around my groceries, My dogs are always in the back seat. They're happy enough in there. I use the child restraint hooks to hold the dogs in position in the back seats. You know, I always have something in the back seat of the car, and that's really what makes this car such a great all-rounder, is that the back seats are usable for so many things. And you can fold the seats down and use as an extra large partial shelf as well. You know, it is a really great space back there, and it makes this car so much more usable. And I think people overlook the fact that the back seats are, in a lot of ways, a lot more usable than you think in this car. Next is the cup holders. Not that there's anything special about the cup holders in this car. You open up the little panel and they pop out, and then I can stick my half-strength chai soy latte thingy in there, and away I go. The reason I mention it is because it's taken me 6 months to realise something about this cup holder, and I'm sure everyone else is smarter than I am and have already figured this out. But just in case you haven't, when you've got the cup holder open, the side flaps are separate, so you can actually close this centre one and have the console looking nice again. It's taken me months to figure that out. I've been driving around with it down like this, looking kind of awful. So yeah, if you haven't figured that out already, that's how you should have your cup holder set. You can have the other one out as well, and close it, and that's how it should work. Next, bi-xeon headlights, and I wanted to mention the bi-xeon headlights because they've surprised me so much. I had bi-xeon headlights in my previous car, an M3. I had bi-xeons in my Audis that I've had in various other cars, but in this car they are so much better. I don't know why they're so much better in this car, but every time I get out on a road, an open highway that's got no other lighting, I am so shocked at how good the headlights work in this car. They are really powerful, really even spread. I know that there's an option for LED headlights for this car, and I really don't know why anyone would bother. I think the Xeon lights look best as well, but they really work very, very well. I wish I could demonstrate them to you, but yeah, nighttime filming doesn't work so well for me, so you just have to take my word for it. Okay, so next I want to talk about the instrument gauge cluster, of which there are 5 pods, and this fourth pod is the one that I wanted to focus on, which is the multifunction pod. And it's a great little unit in that it's so configurable. You can do so many things with this, and I think most owners would only ever scratch the surface of what is possible on this pod. The first screen, as you can see, is just the vehicle information screen, and you can make so many changes to this. Pop into settings here, for example, and then display and the vehicle menu. At the moment I've got like the top line set as oil pressure, but you know, you can pick all manner of options for each individual line and configure it just the way you want. You know, some might say that I'm duplicating some of the information that the other gauges show, but it's nice to see it in this exact format, and it's neat to have the little bars going up and down. Next on this menu is shows the stereo information, the radio information, the telephone information. You can have your map up there. You can have sat-nav information. The trip computer, just like the first screen, is very configurable. There's 3 trip computers, and you can configure all sorts of stuff. Steering angle, height, you know, obviously fuel information, speeds, distance travel, all that type of stuff. It's very, there's an enormous amount of information that can be got from that. Tire pressure monitor, the stupid sport chrono stopwatch. The G-force thing, which sort of has a memory. You can see what sort of tomfoolery you've been up to with the G-meter. And of course the adaptive cruise control if you've got that option. On four-wheel drive cars, there's another screen which shows the split of torque between the front and rear axles as well. So yeah, the multi-display is a neat little feature that's standard on all the cars. And finally, the rear spoiler. You know, I love the look of the car with the spoiler down. I like the clean curve of the back end of the car with the spoiler down. But it's kind of a neat spoiler how it works. It's normally automatic. As you're driving along, as you get, I think it's about 70 miles an hour, it pops up on its own. It might be 80 miles an hour. Pops up on its own, and once you drop below that speed again, it drops back down again. Or you can manually set it to go up and down with the button inside the car. If it's already popped up at 70, you can force it to go back down between 70 and 80 by pressing the button. But once you get above 80, it goes up regardless of what the button position is. Or you can leave it up all the time, and I guess that kind of looks stupid. Anyway, so yeah, that's the rear spoiler. Kind of neat how it works, although it does sort of indicate that you're speeding because it's up. So yeah, I prefer it being down, but it works well enough, and it's a neat little feature. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up. I've belabored it on long enough. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments below or email me directly. If you're looking to buy one of these cars and you've got any questions, feel free to email me. I'll do my best to answer the questions the best I can, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.